Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 40th part of What If Deku Had a Robot Wolf. I hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 40, With a Bang. Is Eri okay? Izumi asked as she walked into the Team Ida-10 agency alongside Tensei. She had just received a call from her mother about Eri panicking and using her quirk, this time on Recovery Girl and Gran Torino, turning them 30 again. The two heroes were fine, but Recovery Girl had put them both on medical leave. But it was Eri who she was more worried about. No doubt she was going to be scared that they may punish her for this. Good thing Durandal can double as a phone and accept calls. There was no way she was going to be able to answer her phone normally whilst wearing him. Eri's fine, but shaken up Inko replied over the phone she thought Recovery Girl was going to rip her apart. Izumi frowned. She didn't like the tests Recovery Girl was conducting on Eri any more than her mother did, but they needed to be done so that they could help Eri. She's been through a lot and it will take a long time for her to heal. Both physically and mentally. Plus, they needed to know where she got her non-quirk related powers from. She was glad that Rolls wasn't around to eavesdrop on her call. She did not want someone she suspected of having similar powers to Eri's finding out about the girl. I'm doing my best to keep her calm, but she always seems so much calmer around you, Inko continued. It took me an hour just to reassure her that she wasn't going to be punished for this. I know, but we can't risk bringing her out here, Izumi said. Try to keep her calm until I get back, okay? I'll promise to stay by her side for a full day when I get back. Thank you, Izumi, Inko said, and please, stay safe out there. I will, Mom, Izumi said. I love you. Love you too, Inko said before she hung up. Problems at home? Tensei asked as they made their way to the locker rooms. No, school, Izumi replied. My mother's looking after a girl named Eri at UA. She's young and has no control over her quirk. We're trying to help her, but, well, she didn't like that I had to leave as I'm one of the few people she's comfortable around. She panicked earlier today and used her quirk. No one was harmed, but she was left shaken by it. She said a part of me wishes she could have come with me, but it's safer for her to stay at UA. I see, Tensei said. Well, I hope she gets better. By the sounds of it, she's had it rough. Izumi nodded, wishing she could tell him more, but was simply not allowed to. Eri had been through hell, and her situation as well as what happened to her was on a need-to-know basis, despite half of UA knowing about what happened to her and wanting those responsible dead. But this was a complicated situation. They knew who was responsible for tormenting her, but they couldn't find them. The Shai Hassaikai had gone to ground and there had been no sightings of them since Eri was rescued. And the more people they have looking for them, the less likely it will be that they will find something. The last thing they needed was for the entity of the top 10 to be looking for them. With that kind of heat on them, there was no way they'd show their faces anywhere. So the less who knew and were looking for them, the better. But, the moment they have something concrete, and know exactly where they are, all bets are off. So, how do you feel? Tensei asked as he took off his helmet. Exhausted, Izumi replied. I know we were just walking about, but, all those people, how do you get used to them all? Time, Tensei replied. I'm afraid the more popular heroes get more attention, thus, more people crowd around us wanting autographs or selfies. And you won the first-year sports festival, which would have brought a lot more attention, plus you were patrolling with me, so that's bound to garner some more. Don't worry, it'll die down in a few weeks. Izumi let out a sigh of relief. She did not like all the attention she was getting, not one bit. Anyway, I'll give you some time to rest before we cover some other stuff heroes need to do, such as paperwork, Tensei said. We can work on your new technique tomorrow. For now, rest up. Paperwork may not seem like much, but trust me, it's tiring as well. Izumi nodded before she entered the woman's changing room. Durandal deactivated Armored Wolf mode and changed back into her school uniform before heading back to her room. A short rest would be nice. Well, I'd say that was a successful first patrol, Durandal said as they made their way back to Izumi's room, even if people crowded around us a bit too much. Yeah, that was uncomfortable, Izumi said as they entered her room. I'm just glad I was wearing you at the time. No one could see how uncomfortable I was, she said as she sat down on her bed. Anyway, what do you think about Rolls? That her abilities are suspicious as fuck, Durandal replied. Telepathy and telekinesis are common, yes, but having both of them in one package is suspicious. Especially when we already know of someone who has that combo, and they're not quirks. Yeah, I agree. It is a suspicious combination, Izumi said. If we had never met Eri, I wouldn't think much of it. It's an interesting combination and isn't suspicious. Okay, I might be a bit worried about her reading my mind, but that's probably all I'd be worried about. But, after meeting Eri and finding out her other powers aren't normal, it becomes a suspicious combination, she said before she froze, suddenly realizing something. Oh fuck. What? What is it, Izumi? Durandal asked. What if she knows about One for All? Izumi replied, a horrified look on her face. I wouldn't worry about it, one of the vestiges said calmly, unless she's strong enough to break through the combined willpower of 7 dead people, 8 if we count you, 9 if we count Toshinori, but he's not dead yet. She is not getting in here and learning about us. Besides, we would have felt if there were any mental intrusions. You are, I hate to break it to you, but we didn't feel any intrusions from Eri, the whispery vestige said, and she was able to find out about us. There was a long silence, an uncomfortably long silence. Well fuck. This is why I keep calling her non-quirk related powers bullshit alien space magic, the voice of the second vestige said, sounding annoyed. It's the only explanation that makes sense. Izumi started to panic, breathing in and out quickly. Okay, don't panic, Izumi, you don't know she's like Eri yet. Panicking won't help. But what if she is like Eri? If she is, then there's no way I can stop her from reading my mind. If the vestiges can't stop or detect Eri, then they won't be able to stop anyone like her. Hey! A voice said to her side, causing her to jump. Laying on the bed beside her was Himiko, who was smiling. Himiko! Izumi yelped as she jumped right off the bed. What are you doing here? How did you get in here? How much did you hear? Oh, I sneaked in, Himiko replied with a smile. Been testing out a new technique I've been working on, that allows me to sneak around without anyone noticing me, she said. Also, all I heard was something about you being worried about roles. Sneaking requires a lot of attention, so I wasn't really paying attention to what you were saying. So, what was that about being worried about roles? Izumi sighed as she sat down on the bed, glad that Himiko hadn't heard anything about One for All. Let's just say there are things I know that I don't want others to know about. Personal stuff, she replied. Role's quirk allows her to read other people's minds, a bit like Eri, but she has a lot more control over it. I just don't like the idea of someone reading my mind without my consent. I'm okay with Eri doing it, she's still a child and can't really control her powers, but Roles can. How can I tell if someone like her isn't poking around in my head? Yeah, I understand how you feel, Himiko said as she got up and sat beside her. There are things that I don't want someone I barely know to find out. Like what happened between me and my parents. We all have our secrets, and people who can read other people's minds like Roles are, well, it'll be easy for her to violate our privacy without us knowing about it. I know Roles sounds like a nice and fun girl, but with an ability like that, how do you know she's not violating our minds? At least she can't read Durandal's mind. Have you forgotten that Eri can read my mind and talk to me? Durandal said. Yes, but her powers are an enigma and aren't normal, Himiko said. Role's ability is very much a quirk, showed me herself. Durandal just nodded, opting to inform Izumi about Role's choice in footwear later. So whilst her quirk is similar to Eri's abnormal abilities, it's still a quirk, Himiko said, even if they basically do the same thing. All we can really do is hope she doesn't get curious and starts poking around our minds whilst we're around her. Izumi nodded. Yeah, all we can do is hope. There were a few moments of silence before Himiko spoke up again. Oh yeah, there was something I was hoping I could ask you, she said nervously, averting her gaze. Would it be possible for me to drink some of your blood? Sure, Izumi said calmly as she held up her arm to Himiko. Himiko just stared wide-eyed at the arm presented to her. Wait, why, you just okay with me taking your blood? Of course I am, Izumi said with a smile. You said that your quirk makes you want to drink blood. I see nothing wrong with letting you have some of mine. Himiko looked down at the arm presented to her, still not entirely sure what to do with it. She had asked people for blood before, and they had allowed her to have some. But never had they offered to let her drink it from the source. Never. It's always been bagged first. Why was Izumi allowing her to do this? Gingerly her hands slowly reached up to Izumi's arm and grabbed it, keeping it in place as she leaned in. It's not Dad's, it's not Dad's, it's not Dad's, she thought, repeating the mantra as she slowly started to lick Izumi's arm in preparation. Izumi shivered slightly at the sensation of Himiko's tongue on her skin, a slight blush forming on her face. It felt nice. As long as I don't allow One for All to pass to her through this, everything should be fine, Izumi thought before adding, I am not passing One for All, just in case. She knew One for All could be passed by ingesting DNA, including blood, so she was taking a big risk here. But as long as she was careful, everything should be fine. Himiko, wanting to get this over with before Izumi changed her mind, quickly bit down on the spot she had been licking and started drinking. Immediately she could taste the juicy red substance slip down her throat and began to calm down. Fresh blood always tasted so good, but this tasted so much different from every other time she drank blood. Was this because it was not only freely given, but also straight from the source? Freely given blood tastes so good, she thought as she relaxed, enjoying the taste of Izumi's blood. It was so sweet. Izumi for her part did not feel Himiko bite her, she licked the area she was going to bite first. Does her saliva act like a sedative or something? She then noticed something else as well, Himiko was purring. It was kind of cute, adorable even, and dash. Wait, purring, cat-like eyes, occasionally acts like a cat. Oh dear God, Himiko's a cat. Fucking adorable. Okay, maybe, it might be possible to have two girlfriends, she thought with a slight blush. Himiko was cute, yes, but Sue made it obvious that she was interested in Himiko, so that was a no-go. Unless dash. Her face suddenly turned beet red when the idea of dating more than two girls, specifically, all the girls in the Snuggle Squad, entered her mind. No, there's no way the other girls in the Snuggle Squad like me the same way Achiko does. I'm lucky enough to have one girl like me. There's no way I'm lucky enough to have several girls interested in me, right? It was then that Himiko suddenly sneezed, like a cat. Cute. Elsewhere, several other girls also sneezed, including a certain blue-skinned girl. You okay there, Chiharu? Itsuka asked, sounding concerned. The two girls were out on patrol with Iwabumi, alongside another one of her interns, a second-year student from CI Academy, who also sneezed. Yeah, I'm fine, Chiharu replied, rubbing her nose, might be coming down with something. Just try not to sneeze all over the dress of yours, Psycho Intelli, the second-year student they were with, said with a smile, it looks nice on you. Right, Chiharu said, looking down at the citrus-orange dress she was wearing. It was a nice dress, it really emphasized her bust and was surprisingly bullet and stab resistant. Clothing and armor technology has progressed a lot since the Avalon War. Still, it had given her a few ideas on the design of her proper hero costume. Of course, she'd have to wait till they got back for her real costume to be ready for use, but this substitute one will do till then. Still, that little sneeze from earlier confused her, especially since it coincided with Psycho. It was almost suspicious, too suspicious. It was probably nothing. Meanwhile, in a totally secret location, a warehouse in Akishima City, Tokyo. Overlooking the Tama River. Tamura sighed as the Scion of Blood continued his lengthy speech, which had been going on for 2 hours now. He knew this man liked to talk, but this was ridiculous. At least the man wasn't lying about his group's numbers. Thanks to Kurogiri, they had been able to gather them all in one location. All 428 of them. It wasn't easy, but they got them all here. And he was not impressed by what he saw. They all dressed similarly to how Stain dressed, and they all had swords, knives, and other bladed weapons on their persons. But, they all held them the same way some of the mooks he brought with him to the USJ held theirs, poorly. And the few who had guns showed zero, and he meant zero weapon discipline. There were a few who looked like they knew what they were doing, but it was hard to spot them in the massive crowd of scrubs. He was already glad that the 3 Nomu he provided to them were trash. Said Nomu were currently standing on a large stage behind the Scion of Blood. One was black and lacked eyes, another was pale yellow with wings and wore a gas mask, and the third had pale green skin and 4 eyes. They all looked strong and had green veins, but he knew for a fact that they were all defective and useless to them. Which made them perfect to be gifted to these idiots. If they fail and die, then no useful nomu will have been lost, plus their dead bodies can be used to make more nomu. Can't make a nomu out of someone who's alive now, can you? But if they succeed, however, then they may be worth working with. Plus the dead bodies of the heroes they killed may also make for useful nomu material. So, win-win. But he was hoping that it would be the former, as he was not impressed by what he was seeing or hearing. Honestly, he was hoping that these guys all either get arrested or die, because they did not look promising. Well, all he could do was wait until the Children of Blood launched their attacks against those hero agencies. He didn't know when they were going to attack or who they were targeting, but hopefully, they'll be able to kill a few heroes. And hey, it might attract the attention of a few, better quality individuals their way. Meanwhile, in a prison somewhere in Japan, two men sneezed. One was a tall man with a very muscular physique, large brown eyes, and orange, flame-shaped hair. The other was a thin man with a gray diving helmet covering the left side of his face. Neither of them thought much about it and went back to what they were previously doing, which was planning their individual escapes. Toru was honestly bored. Ryuzaki had done nothing but play video games since she arrived, and whenever she voiced her displeasure, Ryuzaki just told her to wait until nightfall. So there she sat, looking at her phone whilst she waited. Suddenly Ryozaki's phone started to ring. The woman picked it up quickly, but was holding it by the top. Yes, yep, understood. Talk to you later, Jade, she said before she ended the call and stood up. Pack your things, we're leaving for Hosu. What? Toru said, waving her arms frantically. Why? I only just got here. I did warn you that we may be moving around a lot, Ryuzaki replied. Also, don't ask why we're heading there, it's part of a case that's top secret, she said before she moved to pack up her video game console. Toru sighed as she nodded. Annoying as it was, she knew why Ryuzaki didn't want to tell her why they were going to Hosu. She was a student whilst Ryuzaki was a pro hero. There were some things she was not cleared to know. She stood up, picked up her hero costume case and waited by the door for her mentor to finish packing. She thankfully didn't have to wait long, as her mentor soon walked over to her holding two suitcases and a backpack. Huh, funny, they're the same color as Izumi, she thought, noting the color of Ryozaki's shoes. Come on, let's go, Ryuzaki said as she left the room and made her way to the lobby, followed by Toru. Will we be doing anything on the ride there? Toru asked, hoping for a yes. Well, we can go over some paperwork if you want, Ryuzaki replied. Yes, please. Toru said, sounding relieved. Paperwork may be boring, but it's better than sitting around doing nothing. The next day, Achiko had woken up, unsurprisingly, with her head buried within Nijire's bosom. She had expected this. Nijire was a hugger after all. It was comfortable, but, when it got time to get up, she had to use a crowbar to free herself from the older girl's grasp. The fact that this was what she was like when snuggling up to Izumi was not lost on her. She felt it was karma for the many times she had to be pulled off of Izumi. Not that she was bothered by this. Although, it was lonely without Izumi around. Later, during breakfast, she receives a message from the Snuggle Squad group chat. It was a picture of Himiko snuggled up to Izumi. Apparently, the hero she was interning with was operating out of the Team Ida 10 agency. Meaning she got to have private snuggle time with Izumi. She would be lying if she said that she wasn't a little jealous of them. But she was mostly glad that Izumi had someone to snuggle with during the night. The rest of the Snuggle Squad were of course jealous of Himiko, especially Tsu, as apparently she wanted snuggles as well and was annoyed that she was missing out on them due to being stuck on a ship. Friends of yours? Ryukyu asked, looking over their shoulders. It was weird seeing the Dragoon hero dressed so casually. She was a lot less regal outside of her hero persona. Yep. Nijire replied with a smile. They're members of the Snuggle Squad. You know, that group of first years I'm friends with. You told her about the Snuggle Squad. Achiko gasped. What? Nijire said with a shrug. Everyone in your class knows about it, as well as your teachers. I don't see what's wrong about telling her about it. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. Ryukyu said it's not my place to go about informing others about what my interns get up to. Besides, you're not the only ones with snuggle buddies. Eh? Achiko gasped. Who? Mirko. Ryukyu casually replied, why do you think the walls, doors and windows are designed to withstand a nuke? It's so Mirko doesn't break them when she barges into the place. She likes to pop around from time to time. Either to use the facilities or for, well, snuggling. She said we're not in a relationship, we're both straight. We just like to snuggle. Don't tell anyone I said that, okay, otherwise Mirko will have words with you. After she's kicked you through several walls, that is. Okay, noted and understood, Achiko said with a nod, her lips sealed on the matter. Mirko was not someone she wanted to be fighting anytime soon, even if she would be able to last longer than most. That was not one killer bunny she wanted to fight. Anyway, after breakfast they spent an hour or so learning about proper hero procedure as well as a bit on paperwork before they went out on another patrol. They had a patrol yesterday and it was busy, very busy. Izumi had said that she had a lot of people come up to her during her first patrol, and it was the same for Achiko. There were just so many people around them. Even though neither she nor Nijire had won their respective sports festivals, they still made it to the podium, which helped boost their popularity. There was already fan art and fanfictions, not made by Momo, of her. Fan art. Fanfictions. Of her. And Izumi. WTF. How can people be that quirk when drawing and writing? Thankfully, it was a lot quieter this morning. That, and they were just leaving the agency. So there weren't many people around to get in the way. So, Achiko, why did you ask support for a costume redesign? Nijire asked as they stepped out of the agency and followed Ryukyu. Your current costume is so cute. Well, I originally wanted my costume to be poofy like 13's costume, it wasn't meant to be skin tight like this. But now, after what happened during the USJ, and after 13 died, I realized that I was trying to be something I'm not. I wanted to become a rescue hero, to save people, but now I've come to realize that that's not my calling. I can still use my quirk to help save people, but I can't focus on rescue work. There's a part of me that I've been denying myself, trying to ignore, forget, hide, pretend wasn't there, she said, her head held low, but I can't ignore it. It's a part of me, and it would be unhealthy to ignore it. I have to embrace it, she said before she looked up at Nijire. My new costume is me accepting who dash, she said before there was a loud tire screech followed by a loud crash. The two heroes in training and one pro hero quickly turned around and saw a truck had crashed into the agency they had just left. Smoke was billowing out of the engine and the driver compartment was so crumpled up that the chances of the diver being alive were slim. What the Nijire gasped at the sight of the damaged truck. Ryukyu quickly sprang into action and shifted to her dragon-form Galastram. Nijire-chan, focus on getting people out of dash, she said before a clawed hand smashed out of the side of the back of the truck and ripped the side apart, revealing a man with pale yellow skin, two bat-like wings, talons. But the most sickening things were the exposed brain with eyes popping out of it, and the gas mask fused to its face. It was also covered in green veins. Mother preserve us, Achiko prayed, horrified by the sight of the monster before her. It was different from the one from the USJ, but there was no doubt about it, it was a Nomu. Nomu. Nijire shouted at the sight of the monster before them as the winged Nomu let out a bird-like screech and took off into the air. The Children of Blood's attack had begun. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 41. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.